Well. Billionaire Elon Musk has abandoned his idea or his deal to buy Twitter. And in response to that, Twitter is now saying they will sue him. So, in this video, I will briefly discuss someone that called this out and why they called it out. I mean, a lot of people called this out, but I'll get to the reasoning behind why a lot of people were calling this out beforehand. I'll also discuss the reason that Elon Musk is giving for why he wants to pull out of this deal. I will also discuss the real reason why Elon Musk is pulling out of this deal, and then I'll get to a legal opinion in terms of what will happen potentially between Elon Musk and Twitter here, and the legalities of what Elon Musk is trying to claim. So, let's start with people that called this out. So, Matt Binder is one of those people. I've had him on the show before. He hosts a great podcast, a couple of podcasts. I'll link to those below the video under in the description box. But back in April, he put this piece out in Mashable. There's no need to freak out over Elon Musk buying Twitter. He's all hype. Musk is a hype man who rarely ever delivers what he promises, so don't leave Twitter just yet. Matt Binder called this out, as did, I said, a lot of people, especially on Twitter, calling out this well ahead of time for these reasons. So Elon Musk is the quote-unquote genius co-founder of Tesla, according to his bio on the company website. Except he isn't a founder at all, joining well after Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning created Tesla in 2003. Musk's fans may admire him for building SpaceX, a space exploration company. However, that company's success was made possible through billions in government funding, subsidies Musk later said shouldn't exist for others, of course. Also, Musk boasted about sending ventilators to hospitals during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic in spring 2020, but he didn't. In October 2021, Musk told the UN's World Food Program that if they provided him with a plan of action, he'd donate $6 billion to make it happen. When the director of the program stepped up with more information, Musk went silent on the issue. To date, he never donated. I could go on, as there are plenty of examples like this, but my point is Elon Musk is nothing but a hype man. There's no need to worry about his takeover of Twitter, at least not yet. And then he goes into more detail as to why. But it was so funny. I mean, it's even more funny now to see people on the right try at the time to say, oh, these people are crazy. Of course he's going to buy Twitter. So here's an example of that. Ian McKelvey, who based on his tweets is a conservative and a big defender of Elon Musk, tweeting here back in April after that piece went out, saying here Matt Binder claims that Elon Musk, quote-unquote, rarely ever delivers what he promises. An idiotic claim that is rooted in the fact that the political left is mourning the loss of controlled speech on their favorite platform. Or it's a claim, if you actually read the article, based in who Elon Musk actually is and what he has done. And you also have another example here of how Elon Musk, hypes up these things or claims he'll do something and actually doesn't. This from Bloomberg. This is an expensive hobby. When Musk pretended in 2018 that he was going to take Tesla Inc. private, he had to pay the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission a $20 million fine and stop being the chairman of Tesla's board. You're not really supposed to go around pretending that you will buy a public company. The SEC sometimes considers that securities fraud, but Musk is very rich and he can easily afford to pay $20 million for his little joke. His appetite for pretending to buy public companies was apparently undiminished. So I'll get to more on this piece. This is from Matt Levin. He's a lawyer, writer for Bloomberg here. Not a lefty. This is a capitalist, and he'll go over, as I will discuss, the reasonings that Elon Musk is giving and what may happen between Elon Musk and Twitter. But quickly on the facts on this story, Elon Musk announced Friday that he will abandon his tumultuous $44 billion offer to buy Twitter after the company failed to provide enough information about the number of fake accounts. Twitter immediately fired back, saying it would sue the Tesla CEO to uphold the deal. Twitter could have pushed for a $1 billion breakup fee that Musk agreed to pay under these circumstances. Instead, it looks ready to fight to complete the purchase, which the company's board has approved and the CEO has insisted he wants to consummate. So I got to say, I am not usually in Elon Musk's his corner, but I hope he is not forced to buy Twitter. I really do not want him to own Twitter. So we will see where this goes, but I will discuss what may happen, the fallout from all of this from a legal standpoint. But so first on the real reason why Elon Musk wants out of this Twitter deal. The Twitter stock is down, as is Tesla stock. Tesla stock is Elon Musk's main source of income. So based on that Bloomberg piece I'm going to reference here, his Tesla stock is down almost 27% since announcing the Twitter deal. And of course, that was a big piece of how he was going to pay to buy Twitter. And so that's the main reason why I think he's backing out, is that this just does not make financial sense. So he has to, that's why for a couple months now, I think, at least a month, he's been putting out there this idea that Twitter is lying about how many bots they have, which, as I'll get to, even if that's true, it would have to be egregious and overt and clearly on purpose for that to have any potential impact on this deal. But the other potential reasoning here, and Matt Levine in his Bloomberg piece thinks this is the reason, though I'm not sure, but he thinks this is the reason, that this was simply a joke. That Elon Musk never meant to buy Twitter. The whole thing's a joke. But it's a pretty expensive joke if he's actually forced to buy Twitter. Or, I mean, at the very least, pay $1 billion to get out of it, if that's something that Twitter is even willing to entertain. But let's get to the reasons why Elon Musk is giving. He actually has 3 reasons for why he cannot possibly now buy Twitter. So the first one is that Twitter is lying about the amount of bots on the platform, which I find kind of interesting, considering that Elon Musk has been discussing how he wants to get rid of the bots on Twitter. So if he saw one of the big issues on Twitter being bots, which, by the way, those bots, the vast majority in my experience, are right-wing, and a lot of them are out there defending Elon Musk. But let's say that that's what he claimed was the reason he wanted to buy Twitter, at least part of the reason, to get rid of the bots. So how can you both claim that and then say, oh, there's too many bots on the platform, so I can't buy it? It's a little bizarre. And from a more legal standpoint here, from Matt Levine, even so, though, Musk cannot get out of the deal just because one of Twitter's representations is false. He still has to close the deal unless the representation is false, and it would have a material adverse effect on Twitter. This is a famously underdefined term, but it generally needs to be a pretty catastrophic effect. If the bots are 6% of MDAUs, which is monetizable daily active users, whatever. If the bots are 75% of MDAUs and Twitter has been knowingly misleading its advertisers and Musk can expose that scam and advertisers flee and Twitter faces legal trouble for its fraud, then sure, material adverse effect. There is no evidence for this at all, despite Musk's months of looking for it. Also, it is obviously untrue. Companies advertise on Twitter because it sells products. People use Twitter because other non-bot people also use Twitter. So it is a useful and enjoyable social network. Elon Musk, who has far more interactions with bots than most Twitter users, is addicted to Twitter because it is full of real people. It's how he met the mother of some of his children, talking about Grimes. The pretense that Elon Musk has somehow exposed the secret truth that nobody uses Twitter except himself and some spam bots is just absurd, but we have to keep talking about it. It's so stupid. Okay, so on this first point, that Twitter is lying about how many bots they have. They're claiming 5%. Elon Musk saying it's way more, and it has this adverse effect on the platform. Apparently, from a legal standpoint, this is not going to fly. So that's reason number 1. Sounds like it's out the window. Reason number 2 is Twitter is not giving Musk enough information about the bot problem, which, as I'll discuss here from Matt Levine, is more plausible from a legal perspective, but still unreasonable considering Twitter has been complying with giving Musk the information that he's been asking for. So more on that here. When we last discussed this, I wrote Musk can ask Twitter, like, quote, give me the cell phone numbers of every one of your monetizable daily active users so I can call them and see if they're bots. And Twitter will have to decide if that is reasonable, if it violates any laws, etc. If they say no, Musk can disagree, and it might end up in court, with Musk having the ability to walk away if he wins. If they say yes, Musk can just keep asking for more things. Quote, tell us what all of your users were thinking about last Thursday. Why not? And he goes on to write here, Ringler's letter, Ringler is Musk's lawyer, makes it pretty clear that that's what Musk was up to. He'd ask for information about bots and they'd give it to him, and he'd ask for more, and he'd keep trying to get information that he could use to undermine Twitter's SEC reports. He buried Twitter in an avalanche of demands for data. So Musk has been asking for information, and he's been getting it. He's been trying again and again to try and trip Twitter up, and they've been complying and giving him what he's been asking for. So maybe it's, potentially he's asked for something that's just not tenable, but based on what is possible for Twitter to offer him, they've been giving him the information. So again, it shows a pattern here of Elon Musk trying to look for any way out of this deal. And up to this point, it really hasn't appeared to work. But again, this one is more plausible from a legal perspective, because there could be a debate about what is or isn't acceptable for Twitter to give Musk based on what he's asking for. Now, the third reason that Elon Musk's lawyers give is that Twitter has not been operating as usual, which their reasoning for this is completely absurd. So Matt Levine goes on to write here, the third pretext is another covenant in section 6.1 of the merger agreement. Twitter promises to, quote, use its commercially reasonable effort to conduct the business of the company and its subsidiaries in the ordinary course of business between signing and closing. Ringler's letter argues that Twitter has not been running its business in the ordinary course. Yet the letter, Ringler's letter, Elon Musk's lawyer goes on to write here that the reason for that is because Twitter fired a couple of high-ranking individuals, because they laid off some people, because there's a hiring freeze, and because some people quit the company. These are all things that happen in a normal business, including Tesla. So Tesla recently had a hiring freeze because Musk said they had a super bad feeling about the economy. You can't claim that Twitter is not operating ordinarily because of, people quitting, because of a couple of firings, because there's some layoffs, because of a hiring freeze, if you yourself are engaging in many of those same practices. So they are really grasping at straws here. I mean, just whatever they can possibly latch onto and try and argue from a very obtuse legal perspective. I mean, there appears to be nothing here. The only one maybe is the second one, because there's some argument about what is acceptable for Twitter to offer Musk in terms of information about the company. But even that, I think, is a hard sell. So based on all this information, Matt Levine goes on to write here, the question really is the remedy. If a court finds for Twitter, that is, if a judge concludes that Musk's pretexts are not good enough to get him out of the deal, then there are two possible outcomes, and they are very different. One, Musk might have to pay a $1 billion reverse termination fee for unjustifiably walking away from the deal. Or two, the court might order specific performance, meaning that Musk would have to fund his entire $33.5 billion equity commitment and buy Twitter. So, I'm trying to understand, like, this part, like, he goes on to explain more, but how do you force somebody to buy a company that they don't want? This part really is, it confuses me because let's say this is what happens. He's actually forced to buy Twitter. Okay. First of all, does he have the money? Is he going to be like, how is he forced to put it up? Are the banks that are a part of that deal, are they still going to be in on this, even though knowing that Musk doesn't want it? Is he just going to tank the company as a way to get back at people or get back at Twitter? Like, it seems kind of bizarre to try and force Elon Musk to actually own the company. But I guess that is the potential here. And I think the more likely scenario is that he will have to pay the $1 billion in the reverse termination fee. Because I can't imagine him being forced to buy the company. But from a legal perspective, I guess that's possible. So again, if you want more of a breakdown here, I'll link to this piece in Bloomberg below the video. It's very well written and an interesting read. But what a bizarre turn, or just a bizarre story generally. To have another example here of Elon Musk essentially trying to buy publicity by claiming he's going to do something when he doesn't actually do it. And I mean, I didn't even get into the whole his claims about his high speed rail project that ended up being just a tunnel for Tesla cars. Like, there are so many things that he has claimed that he will do that he did not do. This is another example of it, and one that may end up being a very expensive mistake for Elon Musk.